How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. So, some pretty big news coming out of Bengals camp, the first day of free agency. Probably not the big news you was looking for. T. Higgins announcing he would like to be traded from the Cincinnati Bengals. Per Ian Rappaport and company, Bengals T. Higgins, an agent, saying, "Hey, Bengals franchise tagged him." Said they was kind of talking, negotiating contracts, still working on an extension. Meanwhile, Higgins camp saying, hey, that never happened. Bengals haven't really talked contract ever since franchise tagging him or even before franchise tagging him. And you know what? You can kind of see where, hey, that might spite a player a little bit. It's like, hey, they're saying it's happening. It's not. Kind of tough pill to swallow. You kind of understand, hey, probably not going to be here in the future. I want to be locked down long term somewhere. It happens a lot with guys that are franchise tags. You kind of understand where it's coming from. It's a business that's going to happen. Meanwhile, Bengals camp probably going to look back and say, hey, we was more than open to talk contract these last couple of years, and T. Higgins' agent was very difficult about things, if you remember those past couple of seasons, even putting that deadline on this season saying, hey, we're cutting off contract talks beginning of the season. That being said, you look back and say that's the business side of things. It's going to happen. And I think the reason you've seen these two sides at odds was because, the Bengals, no question about it, you want to retain T. Higgins. You want to keep this guy at every cost. He is a solid player, but he's not your number one. They don't value him as a number one. Michael Pittman just got, about 3 years, 70 million, 23.5 million, a little around there. You got to expect Higgins is probably going to get paid more than that. Higgins probably going to get 25. Higgins was not worth $25 million. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of Bengals fans that he wasn't worth it. Not with Joe Burrow as your quarterback and you have Jamar Chase your number. He's not even close. You want to win a Super Bowl? $25 million, $60 million on two wide receivers has never been it. Ever. Find me a time the Chiefs or the Patriots in these last 20 years had that much money wrapped in two wide receivers and won a Super Bowl. They didn't. That being said, the Bengals needed to move on. It was almost a win for both sides here. Now, if T. Higgins, again, back it up. If you could have got T. Higgins cheaper than that, under $20 million, all of a sudden, maybe you would say, okay, maybe we can make this work. Maybe that's what the Bengals wanted. But Higgins and company obviously didn't want that. And you understand that player wants to get the money he thinks he's worth. But, that being said, it's a win-win for both sides here because I don't know what the Bengals' plan was. Did you want to keep Higgins for 1 year? Maybe try to win a Super Bowl with him? Sure, but the thing is, the best case scenario for the Bengals is to try to build a team for the future. If you knew you was not going to sign T. Higgins, you needed to get some draft picks for him. Because here's what happens. Free agency comes around, long list of free agents, might have heard of it. You get to sign these guys. Craziest time of the year. You sign these players and they come play for you on your team. If Higgins was going to cost you $25 million or $20 million or whatever it was, he's gone. You take that second round pick that you're going to get for him, possibly a fourth, maybe a third, depends what team's still on. You take that, you draft his predecessor. Bengals have historically been really good at drafting wide receivers in the second and third rounds, i.e. C.T. Higgins, for example. And that's your number two, and that's going to be more than enough for Joe Burrow. You then take that extra $20 million, $25 million, you go to the free agency, you pick up a lineman, maybe you pick up a slot wide receiver, maybe you pick up both. And now you're built for the future. Now you're built. You got your cheap wide receiver for the next 4 years. You have a solid lineman or a solid tight end, maybe both, for the next 3 to 4 years, as opposed to having one wide receiver too. Because that's what T. Higgins was. I know we get attached to him. I know we love the guy. I know he played really well. But at the end of the day, from a business standpoint, from a team standpoint, he was a wide receiver too. And there's a certain value you put on that if you want to win a Super Bowl. It's like, again, paying for a defensive tackle too. Or, your second best linebacker. Teams don't throw it out, don't throw cash at that position. You just don't do it. A tight end too. It just doesn't make sense. If you want to win a Super Bowl year in and year out. And some teams go to a bigger extreme. See, the Chiefs got 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill. Why would you trade away the best receiver in the league? I don't know, but they won 2 Super Bowls after. Maybe there's something to it. So that being said, I think it was the best thing for the Bengals. If they wasn't planning on doing anything with him, T. Higgins said, hey, I'm forcing your hand here. Trade me. Now, of course, the Bengals don't have to do it. But at the same time, I think it gets suitors lined up like, oh, okay, now we're serious. We've seen how much these guys are getting paid in free agency. Maybe teams scramble a little bit. All right, let's talk trade with T. Higgins. Meanwhile, again, T. Higgins kind of gets what he wants as well. He wants that security. He's produced for the Bengals for, 4 years now, where it's like, hey, I would like a chance to, stay locked down somewhere. You understand that with anybody. You don't want to go year to year if you don't have to, especially if you have that leverage. So Higgins says, all right, let's walk out the door and figure something else out. Both sides would in this situation, I think, and except the fans, depending on whose side you're on here. Nonetheless, love y'all's thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.